So I'll call this meeting to order. It is now 4:02 of the Bethel Public Utilities Commission for Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. First order of business is public input, and I don't think we have any members of the public who've dialed in. So we'll go on that. Kathy, any late breaking? Well, actually, we have correspondence on, but we couldn't really recognize it anyway because it wasn't uploaded.
It wasn't uploaded, yeah. Whatever was on, queue
Right.
is all that we can talk about, really, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think we had any late correspondence come in anyway, right?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. The next order of business is approval of minutes, but I'm going to ask that we carry that over to the next meeting because when I looked online, that didn't get uploaded to the site.
Oh, good. That's me.
Well, it fell off the table, but that's no big deal. Because we can just roll that over to the next meeting. So moving on to, as a matter of fact, do we have financials on here? I don't think we have financials either.
No, not until next meeting.
Okay.
This is the first
yeah.
meeting in the month.
Okay. All right. Well then, Tom, we'll go right to director's report.
Okay, I have a couple on the director's report, and then obviously I've got more things on the old business. But as far as director's report goes, two things briefly. We talked last time about our next set of water mains that we want to repair or replace. I have that application just about ready to be submitted to DPH. So Matt, that's going to need a signature from you. I have the form here, and I'm in the building. I took the call here from my office. I could get it to you somehow. I could slip it under the door, I suppose, or whatever you prefer.
I'll tell you what, why don't you put it in the first selectman's mailbox in the copier room, next to Lisa Berg's office.
You got
And
it.
I'll get it and I'll sign it first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, I'll leave it there, and I'll send you the attachment that has all the backups so that you at least know what you're signing.
Okay.
Second thing I have is, actually, I had one other item related to that. I was going to handle it as a correction on the minutes, but since we didn't do the minutes, I really can't. I neglected to add one additional street that I wanted to include. And if it's appropriate to add that at this meeting, then I'll propose that. But if you recall, on the current project that we're about to start, we had to cut a piece of Highview Terrace out of the contract. So we ended Highview Terrace at number 22. So what I would like to do on the next project is finish Highview Terrace from number 22 to where we have an 8-inch main on Lindbergh. It's about 450 feet. And I would like to add that to the list that we had. If it's appropriate to do that right now, or if I need to do it as a correction on the minutes, I'll defer to maybe Marty on whether or not I can get a motion on that.
No. You hear me? No.
No.
We'll do that next time.
Had anything. That's why that was the reason why I wanted yesterday to have the meeting go off at 4 o'clock, so we could add something to the agenda if we wanted to. But I don't see how we can take any action that's not on the agenda at this time.
All right, very good. We'll do that next time.
Okay. All right.
My next item under director's report, just an update on the sewer, sanitary sewer rehab project that we're working on. National Water Main Cleaning Company, they have completed the CIPP work, the liner of our sewer mains. So all the sections that needed to be done on Worcester, Plum Trees, and I think there were two other smaller sections, one on Keeler and a piece on Durant. That's all been done over the course of the last 2 weeks. So there's some minor work left to be done, and they haven't gotten back in town here this week, but obviously they'll be back, and they've got a couple of lateral liners to do and a couple of manholes to rehab. But the bulk of the liner work has now been completed.
Have you seen? Okay. After they complete that work, are they videoing those mains again?
Yes, that's a requirement. Yes.
Okay.
Have you seen them?
The videos?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
The original ones I did.
The original ones, yes. They actually cleaned and videoed them again now before they lined. And then after the liner, they're required to do a post video. So no, I haven't gotten any of that back, but that's part of the contract.
What about the project under the railroad tracks? I know you sent us information on that. What's the progress on that?
I have that on the agenda coming up as an old business item. So
Fine.
we'll talk about that here
Okay.
shortly.
Okay,
Other than that, those are my two items on director's report. We could talk
All right.
about our operations for COVID. I think maybe I'll leave that for Kelly to report as far as what we're doing when we get to his supervisor's report.
okay. All right, any
Hey,
other
Matt?
questions? Yeah,
You skipped over invoices. We didn't do a financial report, but you skipped over invoices. We do have some invoices.
oh, you know what, you're right. I'll go back to that. I thought I had that at the end, but you're right. Okay, so one moment, please. Okay, instead of having the invoices, thank you for that, Kath. Instead of having the invoices in a spreadsheet, they're separate. So I'm going to, so there are 3,
I can give you the amount. I have them tallied.
oh, okay,
It's $2,468.28 for the 3 invoices.
okay, so those are 2 invoices from Martin Lawler and 1 from Wright Pierce, correct?
Right.
And just for the record, can you read off the individual amounts for each invoice?
The Wright Pierce one was for $716.83. Marty's sewer invoice was $399.05, and his water invoice was $1,352.40.
All right, well, I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
All right,
Second.
Second by Rich. Any questions?
No.
And hearing none. Those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you again for that, Kathy. Okay, Tom, you're up again because we're on to old business.
Okay, old business. First item I have on there is the qualifications-based selection, the QBS process, and the resulting Wright Pierce agreements. I've kept you guys up to date in terms of what we've been doing as far as this qualification-based selection process is. I've submitted, as per last meeting, I went ahead and got the Chestnut Ridge Construction Administration Agreement and the Bergstrom Wellfield, including the raw water transmission main and water treatment plant agreements, submitted to DPH with their checklist to make sure they were okay and didn't have anything they were going to kick back at me. At this point, I've gotten a verbal from the staff member that I've been dealing with that he's accepted everything, and he has now submitted it to the commissioner for her signature. So at this point, DPH is satisfied. Now that that's occurred, I'm waiting to get the official, letter from them that they're authorizing us to award the agreement. And at this point, I was looking for PUC approval or a conditional approval at least, pending Marty's review and approval for those 2 agreements. So the 3 documents that we had on there were the Chestnut Ridge, the Bergstrom, and then their generic or their general terms and conditions, which are part of both of those agreements.
Okay. All right, well, to further the discussion, I'll put a motion on the floor that we approve the agreements between Town of Bethel and Wright Pierce Engineering for the Chestnut Ridge Water Storage Tank construction for engineering services related to the Bergstrom Wellfield, and the terms and conditions subject to approval by town attorney.
What's the amount?
On the Chestnut Ridge, the amount is, bear with me, $119,976. On the Bergstrom, and again, it's for the phase which includes the preliminary planning and the preparation of the preliminary engineering report. Because they're gonna have, that project's large enough, it's gonna have to go in phases. The amount of that phase, $84,806.
Just a question for me to clarify. The water treatment facility for Bergstrom, okay?
Yep,
This is for iron and manganese, I believe it was, or magnesium?
no, manganese, iron and manganese, and
Manganese.
potentially total organic carbon, but we don't know till we get the pilot study done. And,
Yeah.
and actually, the treatment is going to be determined once we get the pilot study done, which is
Yeah.
included in this phase that we're talking.
What are you anticipating? Maybe, I know Dino is probably more aware of that, but are these just charged columns that we're going to run water through for deionization?
It would be basically a green sand filter, and the green sand media is for removal of iron and manganese.
Yeah.
So I would say they're going to be probably 8-foot to 10-foot diameter steel tanks, usually mounted vertically. So maybe
Is this going to be in a building?
it would be in a building, absolutely.
Oh.
And there'll be multiple filters.
Yeah,
We'll have to have one in service. It might be two that are needed to be in service. And then, at some point in time, you're going to have to backwash those filters.
you're right.
So it's got to be sized properly where, let's just say you put 3 filters in, they'd have to be sized so that basically 2 could handle the entire flow while you were backwashing 1. But that all is going to really be determined by the pilot study that we're about to embark on.
Okay,
But that's how I picture, this design coming about. We're going to have some pumping, you're going to have some chemical feed, you're going to have these filter tanks, and there's going to be valving and such.
so Cali's people will have to be going over there periodically to either recharge or backwash, or this is going to be done automatically?
No, I can't see it being done automatically. I imagine we would basically be visiting that site probably on a daily basis. We'll have SCADA involved so that we'll be able to collect data and transmit it back to us. So at least remotely we can see what's going on. But I think you're going to take a visit to that site pretty much when it's in service every day. I don't know that you're going to backwash it every day, but you're certainly going to, I think, monitor it. And, there's chemical feed tanks that have to be, filled, whatever you use from the day before, you're going to refill the day tank. There's going to be certain data that you're going to collect on a regular basis. So that's what my view of how this is going to, end up being.
The SCADA will collect the data, but do you have to sample what kind of frequency?
At this point in time, I couldn't tell you the exact frequency. You're going to have some online instrumentation. You're going to have instruments that are going to collect, certainly turbidity, 24/7, like we do now.
Right.
You're going to be monitoring the chlorine levels, 24/7 with an online instrumentation. You're going to maybe measure head loss. You're going to, you're going to take bacteria samples, and all of that will be basically on a required frequency that the state is going to, require us to collect.
All right. At our last meeting, I had brought this up, Paul, you weren't there. I'm very concerned about the cost of this operation. And I kind of agree that we need to do this preliminary testing to see what it's actually going to cost to construct these filters, operate these filters, because even the backwash water we have to get rid of, which we have to pay, it would go into the city sewer. So this is a preliminary thing, and we need to get a final cost of what this operation now we're even talking extra manpower to go over there and operate this filtering system. So I think we're a long ways from finalizing a total okay on this type of filtering for this water. I know we've invested a lot of money into this well over there at Bergstrom, but it might be cost prohibitive to operate it.
I
So
was-
that's something we need to find out.
I was thinking of the very same thing, because this was supposed to have been backup, as I recall, this particular well.
Well, it's going to basically allow us to really retire, if you will, the Chestnut and the Eureka plants. You know, the health department uses like a 50-year planning horizon. So you've got to show adequate water supply for your current and your future needs going out as far as a 50-year horizon. So yeah, I think where we stand right now, you know, I think once this facility is up and running, it is yet to be determined how we're then going to actually utilize it. I don't know that we're going to use the full, you know, 800 gallons per minute, you know, every day, 365 days of the year. I can't see that happening. But as the system, you know, as our system grows and we get into that 50-year horizon, you've got to show enough supply. And unfortunately, you know, the Bergstrom well, when we pulled the water out of the ground, it wasn't quite where, say, the Maple Avenue wells are, where, you know, you got to give it a little bit of chlorine and you got to give it a little bit of, you know, corrosion control, and you could put it right into the system. So certainly the pilot testing is going to really determine what kind of filtration we need. And once we have all that out online, and we know, you know, how much water, well, we do know how much water that facility is going to be able to put out, that's when we'll make some decisions on how do we want to utilize it. Yes, it might be expensive to run that plant every single day, but I don't know that we're necessarily going to do that in the short term.
Okay.
And the flip side to it is if you don't develop this well field and treat it, you know, to meet the standards, you're back to doing something with Chestnut and Eureka. And really they're even less cost effective because they don't have the supply there to put the money into the treatment that you need for today's standards is one thing, but the limited supply that those two sources have.
Well, Eureka, you know, I would think that supply is pretty much, it's pretty large supply of water up there.
Not really, Paul. When the way the health department looks at it is they're looking at your safe yield. So they're looking at how much can that source put out when you're in a drought situation. It's one thing when the reservoir is completely full and you're putting that water into the system. It's another thing when you're now in a prolonged drought. And the watershed size and the volume of water that's in that reservoir is really not as large as you think it is.
Well, let me ask Kelly. Kelly, have we ever had a drought situation up at the Eureka?
Since I've been here, no, but I do know if there's been times when they had to take water from Mountain Pond. We've been fortunate that our wells have been able to keep up, but the problem during the summer is there's an awful odor that comes with the water out of Eureka.
True.
And the
True.
people do notice that. And then
yeah.
when you talk about the Chestnut size, then you're getting into the TTHMs. So we do have issues on both sides where, although the well water is hard, it's definitely the quality of everything. The wells are much better.
Yeah, Paul, back in the late 60s, we had drought, and as Kelly mentioned, we had to pump water out of the Mountain Pond up to the reservoir because it was below the level that flowed naturally into the reservoir from there. So, yeah, we've been through a couple droughts up there.
Okay.
I know firsthand on those.
And what I can say is Bethel's very lucky in that they have the supply of groundwater that they have, because I think it's insulated, you know, Bethel's, you know, the impact of any of the droughts that we've had. We've actually had multiple droughts since I've been in the industry in 1990. And Dino, you probably can speak to this too down in Norwalk. Certainly the system that I came from had no groundwater, was completely surface water, and with a storage capacity of over 1 billion gallons in that system, we've been down. I've seen our system there get as low as 20% capacity, which got, pretty scary.
Went through it just a couple of years ago.
Yes, the 2016 drought.
Yeah.
We were on the verge. Actually, we did ask the state health department to issue an emergency order for our system. This was after Aquarian, if you recall, was into an emergency, and they had to run lines over land along the Merritt Parkway and try to get water from their main supply system in the Bridgeport area down to the Stamford and Greenwich area. And, we were on the verge of getting an emergency order from the state. And actually the state told us to kind of hold off based on all the issues it was going to create. Luckily, we did, and we were able to basically get our supply once the rains came. But my point is, Bethel's pretty lucky with having the groundwater available to it, that we haven't really had the impact of the droughts.
So at the present time, I think we need to approve the $84,000 to further investigate the water supply there. I do have a question, Tom, about the tank. Seems like $119,000 is a lot of money for a short period of time. Is what we're talking, maybe 8 months construction time on that?
Yeah, that's about right. Maybe even slightly less. There's coordination with the contract. This is kind of a specialty construction job. It's not, just installing water mains. So we've got a couple of consultants on board to do some extra concrete testing and soil testing. Normally in this kind of a contract, the contractor is required, as they're pouring concrete, to collect concrete samples. But it's a lot of times it's in the owner's best interest to also have a third party independent doing some of that testing for you. So there's some concrete testing that we're going to do. There's some soil testing that we're going to do on site to make sure, obviously, that this load that we're going to put on the ground, that the sub base and the subgrade are prepared properly. There's a lot of submittals. There's a lot of equipment and material that's going to get submitted by the contractor. So there, again, if you look through the scope of services, it outlines everything that they're going to do in terms of meetings with the contractor, inspections on site, review of shop drawings. The way I have it set up with them is their initial proposal was a lump sum, and I had them revise that. So it's going to be as an incurred cost. So
Okay.
As the project progresses, I thought that would give me a little bit more leeway if I could hold back on them, doing quite as much, or if there's less shop drawings involved or so on. I think we'll just basically, pay as we go, if you will, as opposed to it being a lump sum contract.
All right, just so are you saying that the geotech and the concrete testing is included in that, or it's above that?
No, it's included in that. They're going to be subcontracted.
Oh, all right,
to
okay.
White Pierce.
All right. All right. Do you have a motion on the floor, Matt?
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor, but I don't recall who seconded that.
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Paul. All right, are there any further questions, comments? Questions for Tom? Hearing none. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that carries. Okay,
Thank you.
Tom, item number 2, the Greenwood Avenue water main repair.
Okay.
Got a document on that, I see.
I submitted I kind of tidied up the cost estimates for the job. So that's what's on the agenda is the cost for basically 3 options. And we've seen this from last time. I just put them in a different order now. I put them from lowest to highest. But when we left the last meeting, I was still gathering some information on the alternative one, that high pressure hose liner. I did get a chance to speak to some more of the other utilities that have utilized this process. And I got some pretty good feedback from them. So I had sent also an email to you guys, I think last week, kind of summarizing, the feedback I got. And The other item I had done was I wanted Wright Pierce to do a couple of hydraulic model runs of our system with a couple of options, one with this hose liner being in place. We took the conservative approach that at some point in the future, and I don't know if we'll ever even get to this, that if we did have a 16-inch water main along the entire length of Greenwood Avenue, the two options I had Wright Pierce look at was if we replace the Greenwood Avenue piece under the railroad tracks with a 16-inch main, and then the second run they did was to utilize this high-pressure hose liner inside the 10-inch main. So with the combination of getting some good results back from the other utilities and looking at the hydraulic model runs, which really showed not much additional head loss through this liner versus a 16-inch main. We'll get less flow through it, of course, but our system is strong enough. We have, a couple of good feeds leading up to that Greenwood Avenue. We have the cross connection on Depot Place between Greenwood and South Street, and we have the other connection on the other side of the tracks along Front Street. So with the combination of getting good results back from the other utilities and the positive results of the hydraulic model, I was satisfied to go ahead and recommend the high pressure hose liner.
That's Aerold Construction, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I went
Alright.
all those numbers, Tom, and they look good. You
Okay.
know, the loss is minimal.
Basically, yeah, it's, you're going from, a head loss of, in feet, a quarter of a foot to like 3 feet. In PSI, that's basically close to 0 to maybe, 1.5 pounds.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will put a motion on the floor that we approve alternative 1, high pressure hose liner as the alternative.
I'll second that.
All right, seconded by Dino. Any other questions?
What's the warranty on that? What's the warranty on that?
It's a 5-year warranty. The couple of utilities I spoke to, they haven't been in service long here in the U.S. They've been used a lot in Europe. The problem with this, not really a problem, but it lends itself for being used for a transmission main where you don't have to come back and tap the main. And at this point, they only go up to like a 20-inch liner. And in the U.S., a lot of the transmission mains are a much larger diameter, so it hasn't really lent itself. If you're gonna do this somewhere where you have to come back and tap the main and put a service, it doesn't really work. So that's where we're at.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. We have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One more question. What was my other question? Oh, about the vibration of the railroad tracks. They felt that there was no problem with that either.
Rich, your audio came in kind of broken up, so I didn't really catch the question.
All right, I was just, they're aware this is going under the railroad tracks. Was there any concern about that from vibration?
They are aware, and in fact, one of the gentlemen I spoke to, let's see, where was it? In Bennington, Vermont, it was the same situation, went under railroad tracks.
Okay.
And in Kansas, the piece they did there actually went under an arterial road, which goes under I-35. So it's been used in spots where it's tough to basically dig. And that it does lend itself for that, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the motion? Any other questions? All right, hearing none. So I'll try your minds. Those in favor of alternative 1, high pressure hose liner, Aerold Construction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That motion carries. Thank you very much. Tom, one last thing, PUC capital project summary.
Okay, thank you. Real briefly, the couple of projects I can talk about. The Chestnut Tank, the contracts have been signed. The site contractor is about ready to start. Kelly, I don't know if you got a chance to go by and see if they've actually gone on site yet, but I think they're basically pretty close to that point.
There were surveyors there this morning, and they've got a piece of equipment sitting there.
Okay, the first step's going to be them getting their, basically marking out the area that's going to be disturbed, getting their erosion controls installed, and marking out the trees that they propose to take down. And we've already spoken to, and they've already spoken with the land use department here to coordinate an inspection so they can take a look at both of those before the contractor actually starts cutting any trees down. So we're getting close. I got a nice letter from DN Tanks. They basically highlighted the fact that they're, fully aware of what's going on in the world as far as COVID, some of the precautions they're taking with their crews, requiring, masks and gloves and installing hand washing stations on their sites, everyone's social distancing. So I was happy to see that they, communicated that and basically, let us know that they're aware of what's going on.
Okay. Very good.
The next project, I don't really have an update. The 2019 water main replacements, I'm expecting that to get started soon. Had a brief conversation with the contractor yesterday, and I'm trying to get him to commit to a start date for us. But
Okay.
I expect that should happen soon.
Okay.
And really, the other, capital projects are what we've already been discussing, so.
Right. Very good. Kelly?
Okay, I got a couple things. We got the hydrant replaced at the old Sky Zone. Being so close to that building with the square footage, that was a priority. Tinker came out and did that. They practiced all safe distances as they worked. They all had masks, they all had gloves. And I was actually pretty impressed the way they handled it. Let's see, Chris McCollum will be back on Monday in full strength. So we're in good shape with that. Just to let you know how we're handling the COVID-19, as we spoke at the last meeting, we're actually working on a weekend schedule. So what that means is I have one guy doing water in the morning, doing the rounds, and they leave at 11:30. Sewer side, the same thing. They're doing the sewer rounds. They're leaving at 11:30, and then the following week they're flipping off. I've got Rick Benzing doing any kind of call before you digs and emergency orders. Only emergency orders are we doing, meaning a leak in the basement or a sewer backup, and we're following the format as to contacting the people. With McCullum back, I'm going to be flip-flopping him with Benzing starting next week. Everyone is keeping distance. Everyone is practicing. All the safe aspects have been set forward for them. I would also like to thank you, Matt, and the way that the town is handling the safety portion of this with your concern for the workers. You've been very transparent, and everyone pretty much is on board with everything.
Good, thank you.
These guys also that are working a half a day, they are aware that they're on our dime until 3:30. So even though they're home, they know that from 7 to 3:30, they're coming in straight time should I have an emergency.
Okay.
Really, that's really all I've got. We're just, we're just kind of battening down the hatches and staying safe. As for getting back to the tank, BMB, I go up there every morning just to see if they're on site. The neighbors are being real good with us. They're giving us an area for them to park their vehicles. We're making sure they stay on their where they can stay on the right of way. Yeah, I just want to keep them honest with the neighbors. I don't want any problems up there. So we're in good shape. We're holding our own.
Okay, good.
Okay, that's really all I have, Matt.
All right. You guys have any questions for Kelly?
Hmm.
And hearing none, that concludes our agenda. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
All moved.
All right. So moved by
Stay
Paul,
safe, everybody.
seconded by Rich. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. And this kind of works. You
All
guys
right.
have a great night. And Rich and Paul, I'll see you guys in a couple hours.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Take care.
See you.
Stay safe
safe.
and healthy, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.